A very warm welcome to everyone. Today's video is going to be continuation of the topic The Great Indian Middle Class by Pawan K. Verma. And if you are looking for the basic and early stage of independence of Indian middle class of this topic, you just need to click on the top right icon. And now, with no delay, let's get started. Now let's continue with the second part, that is later stage of independence. In this part, author traces that there are some new entrants in the middle class. The author says in 1947 the middle class under the Britishers was just a small club. However, things began to change after 1960s and 70s and further drastically changed after 1991. Today, only few members of the original club survive, and they would be shocked to find out that whom they thought to be far below their status consider themselves to be their equals. Means, now the earlier poors are getting into the category of middle class. Among the new entrants to the club are bullock capitalists from the countryside, shopkeepers, small entrepreneurs, property agent, semi-skilled industrial and service workers, and low-level salaried households. The economic reforms of 1991 benefited the middle class more than those below of it. As the economy grew, the job and businesses opportunity for the middle class Indians too grew. In 1997, the average middle class person was just emerging from the shadow of the socialistic era and beginning to be the new consumerism that took place after the reform of 1991. The importance of economic reforms of 1991 is that earlier, before 1991, the government followed the closed economic policy, and after 1991, economic liberalization was followed. Means now the forest investment was possible in India and free market economy started. With this ideological shift, the old notion of living within your means has been buried under an avalanche of plastic. Further, let's see some characteristics of the Indian middle class. First, survive still now. Means the middle class always knew that India guaranteed the survival of the fittest because the opportunities were few and people opting for it were many. So, in economic scarcity and shortage of capital, this class trained itself to be inventive and improve itself on imports and reducing cost. Next character is of the education. Education was something that the middle class always valued. Education was the only means to move out and maintain their status. And if not this, then just to widen the distance from those at the bottom of the ladder. On the other side, educational avenues had been increasing ever since 1947. The government was investing in computer school and training institutions and introducing and upgrading IT-related courses. In fact, the country's nearly 300 universities affiliated colleges produce more than 2 million degree holders a year. So, the middle class had put in a great of hard work to be a part of and benefit from this unfolding educational boom. Now the third character is sensitive to its own interests. In this regard, author brings us some of the myths that middle class of modern India lives in. First, victim of the state. It has been the typical tendency of the middle class to consider itself the victim of the failure of the state. And they always blame state policies not favorable to its interests. However, author points some of the hypocrisies. Here is a list of how he does it. He says, middle class loudly criticize corruption, while it has its hands completely immersed in it. Next, the middle class was also quick to accuse state of not providing amenities like water and electricity. while it was first one to steal it. Then, middle class always found poor responsible for the theft of electricity, while its share to the theft was the largest. Next, they find slums inhabited by urban poor responsible for the dirty conditions in the city, while the newly growing rich middle class build colonies of expensive houses almost like castles surrounded by unpaved roads and dirts. Also, the middle class appeal for lowering taxation, while it's the one who gets away with taxation by bribing. It is also widespread among this class that India has one of the lowest tax to GDP ratio in the world. Again, they blame state for awful civic conditions in public spaces. In fact, when it comes to its interest, this class has shown very little commitment to democracy and even lesser commitment towards secularism. From this example, now it's clear that the sense of public responsibility is non-existent among middle class. And they also try to put the blame all upon state and try to preserve their own interest. Now the fourth characteristic is response to communal provocation and secularism. In this regard, author says, when the agitation against the Babri Masjid was at its peak in the early 1990s, a great middle class Indians came to stand out against communal forces, while secularism remained the official statement. However, most of its members want to get away from religion and move towards secular mainstream. And the reason for this are said to be education opportunities, job mobility, radio and television, films, growth of market, advertising and consumerism, newspapers, telephones and mobiles, etc. Consequently, most middle class Indians wear the same clothes, eat same food, sing the same song after watching the same film, speak the same Hinglish, that is combination of Hindi and English, and hence have quite unknowingly became more like each other in any overt way than ever before. Next characteristic is loyalty are not displaced. By this, the author means that caste still continues to be obeyed, but now there are evidences of the middle class following the liberal path. For example, many intercaste marriages take place and caste is much less a factor in employment. Then women going to college or taking up jobs, yet traditional gender stereotype prevails. Apart from this, many educated men denounce dowry in public but acquires it with the parents in private. Therefore, tradition and change continue to happily coexist in India. Next, the author suggests there are lessons to be learned from the world history. In this regard, he says, the Industrial Revolution that shook the Western world long ago brought economic disparity there as well. When old order turns to new and existing social fabric is broken, then self-interest seems to grip humans irrespective of them being Christians or Muslims or any other religious identity or ethnicity. Here, author is not justifying the existing problem of moral fabric in Indian middle class, but he says, just like other developed part of the world, India has to search and find its own balance from within and not from outside. Bringing the masses into a common umbrella of middle class was ultimately the solution and achievement of the developed world. Means Britishers just grouped the newly emerging industrial class as middle class and left us on our own to find its solution. Further, the middle class in India has expanded over 50 years. But how to bring the vast majority of India's poor to be a part of this class is still a complex question. In the final chapters, the author brings before our eyes the present Indian middle class families. Here he gives a small comparison of the past and the present middle class. He says, old structures like joint family are disintegrating and the new nuclear family is emerging. Then, the old religion and rituals are being replaced by new gurus, like that of Baba Ramdev, the Yoga Guru on television channels. Next, earlier notion of Indian home is now being replaced by imitation of American Idol home. Then earlier, the needs of the family were few, and now the world is stung towards glamour and consumerism. So, at the end, Pawan K. Verma has daringly voiced out the fact that present Indian middle class is guided only by self-interest and being insensitive to the plight of underprivileged section of the society. Verma has quoted many examples, many incidents, many happenings of the present scenario, which clearly brings out the mindset of the present Indian middle class. Now, as we have discussed the whole book, let me point out some folly in this book. The first folly is, which middle class is author referring to is a big question. And then, it starts with English educated middle class in pre-independence era. But as the time progresses, many small businessmen and small time land owners enter into this class by their utter purchasing power. However, there are hardly English speaking or educated persons with university degree, and their perception and thinking is different from traditional educated class. Now, while concluding, we can point out easily that the only factor that can make a difference is a change in the attitude in their own interest of the privileged themselves. It is a very good book about the Indian middle class. Everything about the Indian middle class has been told. There was not a single thing that has been missed out. A typical middle class attitude has been brought out very precisely. Therefore, it is a very insightful book to read and also an invaluable source of reference and deserves to be read for that. Hope you got a better understanding of this lesson. I tried to make it as precise as possible. Last but not the least, if you really appreciate my efforts, then please don't forget to subscribe. Also like and share with your friends. Thank you.